Welcome everybody, I am 6am Comics, and this is reviewing my 9-year-old's comics. Only today it's not my 9-year-old's comic, it's my 11-year-old's comic. Only he's 12 now, but he was 11 when he made it. But really, I think I just need to change the name of the series, because at this point it's just a labyrinth of ages. But in any case, if we are reviewing a comic for my oldest son, you already know what it is. Marker Man 4. Let's just let the chaos reign. Okay. Beginning with the overall presentation, this comic, per usual, is presented in black and white and drawn in pencil. I find it fascinating that for a character named Marker Man, his series is never illustrated using an actual marker. It just adds to the abstract and mysterious nature of the Marker Man franchise Milo has created. However, in an act of conformity, this particular issue is given the classic triple staple format, which is an overall deviation from the original Scotch tape binding of the original books. And yet, even in his submission to industry norms, Milo does so in the most rebellious of fashions, being sure to place the middle staple as far away from the edge as possible, creating a slightly angled crease where the pages fold from reading. Come to think of it, it kind of creates the shape of a triangle, like the shape of Marker Man's nose. Even the most random of choices is masterfully calculated. Very impressive. The cover features an epic versus screen between our title hero and his villain of the week, a creature named the Spaghetti Vacuum. Props to Milo's editing skills as well, as he achieves an A+ for spelling. It was a close call though. I'm very curious to find out what this little monstrosity is all about, so let's give this issue a read, shall we? We begin with our timeless tradition of dedicating the book to a misspelled kindergarten before jumping into our story. Marker Man, there's our boy. Eev-Eev, who, as we recall from the previous issue, is the villain formerly known as Evil Marker Man. Eev-Eev made, the suspense is killing me, a spaghetti vacuum! Good gravy, it's just a giant tapeworm. Ugh. But his creation immediately turns on him and devours our villainous doppelgänger. And he is, as expected, poofed from existence. The insatiable strand of pasta went out of the house and found the undoubtedly American mayor and proceeds to eat him as well. Meh. Following the poof of the mayor, it found other things and poofed them as well. Sweet Moses, this thing is like Tapeworm Galactus. Until it discovers our beloved stick hero, Marker Man. He's just chilling. But what's this? I afraid of spaghetti. Now, just to clarify, he's not terrified of snakes or world-eating worms, but he is oddly and very specifically scared of spaghetti. Granted, we can't know for sure if he has a general fear of all pastas. The verdict is out on whether or not he'd have the same reaction towards angel hair or linguine or ziti, but we definitely know that spaghetti is on his list of do not approach items. And because of this, he runs from the spaghetti vacuum. The spaghetti, not fond of his prey making a break for it, begins to turn around in an attempt to chase after our cowardly hero. However, in a stunning turn of events, the spaghetti accidentally consumes its own tail and proceeds to continue eating anyway, at itself. This goes on until the spaghetti poofs itself from existence. However, just because the threat has now been neutralized, that doesn't mean Marker Man knows the wiser, and he continues running. So much so that, given his great strength and lack of overall awareness, he begins crashing through houses, leaving a trail of collateral damage in his wake. Luckily, he happens to pass by his trusty Sidekick Man, who sees what is happening and springs into action by singing Marker Man a song. Once upon a time, a chubby dude fell asleep. Glorious. The melodious beauty of his voice effectively puts Marker Man to sleep, and he falls over in a puddle of his own drool. The end. For one of the shorter books in the series, we're given a lot to unpack. Of all the villains in the Marker Man universe, the Spaghetti Vacuum is Definitely one of the more unique antagonists we've come across yet. I liken him to the pigs of the first two issues, being that this creature is a manifestation of one of our dual-syllabled enemies. What I find interesting about the pigs is that they are manifestations of genius-level entities like Goo Goo and Choo Choo, whereas the spaghetti vacuum is the creation of what we can only assume is a rather low IQ individual, Eev-Eev. I say low IQ because the implication is that Eev-Eev is an evil clone of Marker Man. And as we concluded in a previous review, Marker Man isn't exactly the brightest bulb in the deck. And so I find it rather fitting that Eev-Eev would inevitably create a mindless creature of endless destruction. A strand of pasta who exists only to consume, the most basic of instincts. Eev-Eev, in the words of Dr. Ian Malcolm, was so preoccupied with whether or not he could create a spaghetti vacuum, he didn't stop to think if he should create the spaghetti vacuum. And much like the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park, this destructive being turned on its own creator, devouring him. Akin to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, to which I assume is a heavy influence upon Milo's comic, one could view this tale as a tragedy. Much like Victor Frankenstein, Eev-Eev is destroyed by the actions of his dark creation, be it in a more direct manner. The monster, so to speak, goes on to destroy itself, though, in an interesting parallel, while Frankenstein's monster's fate comes as a result of being consumed by his own guilt and remorse, the spaghetti vacuum's fate comes as a result of being consumed by, well, himself. As with Mary Shelley's classic novel, there is no clear protagonist in this particular tale, as each character seemingly is driven mad, or driven dead, by their own characteristic flaws. We've already discussed Eev-Eev and the spaghetti vacuum, but let's turn our attention toward the title character, Marker Man. His actions are neither heroic, nor are they in direct conflict with the antagonist's intentions. Rather, we see Marker Man casually encountering the ever-hungry pasta vacuum and running away from it. His story could have ended there, as he directly puts an end to the spaghetti's reign of terror. But we see the story does in fact go on from here, as Marker Man, consumed by fear, goes on a terrorizing spree of collateral damage, the likes of which draw real-world parallels to the destructive 2004 onslaught of Martin Haymeyer's Killdozer. Perhaps our closest instance of a hero comes in the form of Marker Man's Sidekick Man, who appears amidst the chaos to lull Marker Man to sleep with a song. While his actions put an end to the destructive force of our title hero, we are left with a rather ominous feeling of a questionable future for our city of stickmen. As we recall, the mayor has now been poofed from his position of power. The city lies in ruin, possibly fearful of their once protective hero, Marker Man, following his mindless assault of their livelihood. Only Sidekick Man remains, but I must ask, would the city of Gotham feel safe with only Robin watching over them? I suspect not. And I must also ask, where do we go from here? Also, where the pigs at? Where they at? And there you have it. Marker Man 4. If you can believe it, there's currently 3 more of these remaining in the series, plus a team-up with Nolan's very own stick figure hero, Stickman Man. Yeah! Anyway, between those 2 characters and my youngest son's very own Apple Pie Man, we are well on our way to the Stickman Avengers. Heaven forbid. What have I done? In any case, I'm going to go ahead and rate this 1,000 spaghetti strands with no butter or salt because Milo's bringing the sauce. Sub it, like it, share it, I'm out. What's going on, 6am Comics? I had promised all of you that if I get up to 700 subscribers, then I would review this beast of a graphic novel right here, Super Nolan Forgot Me. As I'm editing the video for this Monday, for today, we already crossed the 700 subscriber threshold. Sorry, I didn't think we'd cross it this soon. So next week we will review Super Nolan Forgot Me, which it's a thick book, big old book. I thought I at least had another year before we even hit that point. So I'll get it done. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody
for all your subscriptions. It means a lot, and y'all are crazy. Next week.